This video is perfect for you if you want to get started with digital drawing on your iPad. I will take you by the hand as I guide you through the process of creating your very first Procreate artwork. But don't worry if you are already a frequent watcher, this is a great project for you as well. While you follow this Procreate tutorial, you will learn all about the basic features in Procreate. You will learn about layers, creating shapes, using clipping mask, alpha lock, layer masks, and perhaps it sounds complicated, but once you have followed this tutorial, you are ready to create your own artworks in Procreate, or you can dive into one of the many other Procreate tutorials I have here on this channel. Here you can see some awesome results from fellow Flow creators, or these amazing results from my friends at Patreon. That's where you can go if your Procreate addiction is starting to get serious forms, because there I have more than 100 Procreate tutorials ranging from beginner level to more advanced levels. But now let's get started on your first drawing in Procreate, or your 100th drawing, doesn't matter, let's get creating. For this tutorial, I'm going to imagine that you have just opened Procreate for the first time, so don't worry, I won't be skipping any steps. Once you have installed Procreate and you have opened it, you will see these amazing artworks. They might either be really inspiring or perhaps they scare you a little bit. Now to get started, we are going to create our own canvas, and to do that you need to go to the plus here in the upper right corner. Once you tap it, you will see a few standard sizes. I have a lot more because I have added my own custom sizes, and that's what we are going to do as well. You can either pick one of the standard sizes, but for this tutorial we are going to make a different size, so we'll tap a little plus folder thingy here. And then over here, you can pick the width and the height of your canvas. For the width, we are going to pick 2300 pixels. And for the height, we are going to pick 3000. You don't have to change anything here. Now over here, you can see the maximum amount of layers. For me, that's 268, but for you, that might be different. It all depends on the type of iPad you have. And then here at the top, you can change the name of this custom canvas. As soon as you create this canvas, it'll show up on that list that you saw before, so you can always go back. So you can always use the same size canvas in the future. And I use 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels a lot for my tutorials, so I suggest saving that. You can just name it 2300 by 3000, for example. That'll make it easy to find. Now over here for the color profile, I have that set to sRGB IEC long code. Make sure that it's set to that. And over here, you can change the time-lapse settings, because every time you make a drawing in Procreate, Procreate will automatically record the process. If you don't have a lot of space on your iPad, I would suggest either turning it off or setting it to a low quality. And then for canvas properties, here you can set the background color. By default, it's set to white, and I will keep it like that. But if you prefer to always work on a black background, for instance, then you can change that here. Or you can turn on background hidden, and then it'll just be turned off once you open this custom canvas. So let's create our custom canvas by tapping create. And now here we have our blank canvas on which we will be working. Now if you pinch with your fingers, you can zoom out a little bit so you can see the edges of your canvas. And what we need to create the colorful landscape that we will be drawing during this tutorial is a color palette. I have created a color palette for you so you can use the exact same colors as I'm using during this tutorial. All I need to do is go to the link in the description. It's totally free. Follow that link and download the swatches file. Then once you have imported it into Procreate, you need to go to the color menu over here and then to palettes. And you will find the imported color palette at the bottom, or I think sometimes it even can show up at the top, but you will find your first creation color palette. And then what you need to do is tap the three little dots and set it as default. And then you can go to disk over here, and then you will see the colors that we will be using during this tutorial. And the first thing we'll do is change the background color of our canvas. You can do that by going to the layer menu. That's this little icon, the two little squares. And here you can see we have a background color and one layer. And to change the background color, all we need to do is tap background color. And then over here, you can change the color by using the ring, we are going to use this first color in the first row of our color palette. So just tap it, and now our background color has changed. Now to start drawing, we are going to start on layer 1. Your canvas will always start with having one layer, but you can make as many layers as you like by tapping the plus like this. And you can compare a layer with a transparent sheet of paper. Right now these sheets are all transparent, but you can paint on them with your brush to start making them non-transparent. And you can layer those sheets of paper on top of each other. You can move them around. The possibilities with layers are endless. I just want to start on layer 1. I don't need these layers for now, so let me select them by sliding to the right. And let's just remove these layers for now by tapping delete. Now on this layer, we are going to create a shape by using a brush. You can select a brush by tapping the brush icon right over here. And we are going to use a brush in the calligraphy section. We're going to use the monoline brush. And for our color, we are going to use this fourth color in the first row. Now here on the left side, you will see two sliders. The bottom slider is the opacity slider. If you lower it, your brush stroke will become less opaque. It'll become more transparent, but we want it to be at 100%. We don't want it to be transparent, so move all the way up to 100%. And here at the top, you have the size slider. And it's pretty logical. If you make it like 1%, it's really small, and at 100%, it's bigger. Now let's set it to 20%. Just a little side note, if you want to save a size to be able to use it later, you can tap the bar and then tap the plus. Now if you move up, you will see this little line, and if you tap it, you will get back to that brush size. Super handy. And now with our brush, we are going to draw a big bump. We'll start here at the bottom. Make sure that you start at the edge. Then we'll make a shape like this. And then we will hold our pen in place, and you can see that it kind of like snaps. It snaps to a quick shape. Now if we let go, we can go to the top here and use edit shape. And now you can see these little handles, and you can move them around, change the shape. Just make sure that your line goes all the way to the bottom, because we want to be able to fill it later, and it needs to be attached to the side to be able to do that. So now we have our little bump, and we are going to fill it with color. And a way to do that is by dragging this colored circle into the shape. So just tap and hold and then drag it into the shape. Now it could be that you get a little transparent edge around the edge, or that your color fills the entire screen. If it fills the entire screen, first make sure that those lines are attached to the bottom. And if that's the case, then you might need to adjust the color drop threshold. Let's undo our color fill for now. The way to do that is by tapping with 2 fingers on your screen, or by using the undo button right here. Now let's do it again. You can drag in your color, and then you can slide to the left or the right to adjust the color drop threshold. Try to make it really high without the color spilling all over. Now this shape is going to be a rounded mountain, a very stylized mountain. I think it's a bit too pointy right now, and an easy way to adjust shapes is by using the liquify tool. You can find that by going to this little magic wand over here, and then by going to liquify. With liquify, you can manipulate the pixels on your layer, so it works on the layer that you have selected. And you can see all these options over here. You can swirl your pixels, you can pinch them, expand them, or just push them. I would suggest playing around with these options so you will get a feel for what they do. So like I said, we will use push. I have the pressure set to max, and distortion and momentum are set to none. If you turn them up, you get a little bit less control over your push. And now for the size, let's turn it up a little bit. Let me set it to 80%. Now we can push and pull the pixels. So we can push right here at the top, making that bump a little bit more flat at the top. They want it to be a little bit higher, so we can just push the bump up. You can also push the sides if you want it to be a bit more narrow. So once you have something like this, all is well, and you can tap the magic wand again, or the brush, or any of the other options to get out of that menu. So now when we go to the layer menu, we have this transparent sheet of paper with just that blue bump on it. Now we are going to make a new layer on top of that by tapping the plus. And now we are going to grab a different color. We will grab this one over here. It's the 7th color in the first row. And we are going to make a line from left to right here at the bottom. We'll start about here, make a line, and then hold your pen in place to make it snap to a quick line, a straight line. Now if you tap one finger on your screen, it'll snap to a perfectly horizontal line. Then let go, and do make sure that your line goes all the way from the left all the way to the right. And then drag in the color to fill that lower area. Now we are going to create a little mountain or hill shape between this blue layer and that mountain layer. Let's go to the layer menu, and then first tap layer 1, and then tap the plus to create a layer right in between these. So whatever we paint on our new layer will cover this one, but you won't see anything behind this area. Now for our color, we are going to use this 6th color in the first row. We are going to make a wavy shape from left to right. If you are having issues creating smooth lines, you can go to the brush settings by tapping the brush here and then tapping the brush you are using. And then here you will find stabilization. And here you can turn up the streamline, stabilization, and motion filtering to filter out any wiggles or tremors that you might have, and overall make your line smoother. I wouldn't turn it up too much though, because that can make your brush behave a bit weird. For instance, we can turn up the streamline to 60%. That should still be fine. And then let's tap done. And turn off the brush library, and I will start over here a little bit higher than our water here. I will make a wavy line like this, and then again make sure that it goes all the way from the left all the way to the right, attaching to the sides of the canvas, and then dragging the color right here. Next I want to create some pointy shapes, some pointy like mountains right behind this yellow hill. To create them behind the yellow hill, we need to make the layer underneath the yellow hill layer. So first tap layer 1 and then tap the plus. And now for our color, we are going to use this one over here, the 5th color in the first row. And to make pointy shapes, we are going to use a little trick. First, let me show you what happens when we use the monoline brush to create a triangular shape. We can do that by using the quick shape. When you zoom in, you can see that it's a little bit rounded at the top. And I want a really crisp, pointy shape. So let's undo this by tapping with 2 fingers. And let's go to the selection tool. That's the S shape ribbon over here. We will set it to freehand. And we will turn on color fill over here. So whenever you make a selection, it immediately fills the selection with the color you have right here. And with the selection tool, you can really make nice pointy shapes. Let's start by tapping here. Then we'll tap about here. Then over here. And then right here, we can loop around and close the selection by tapping this little circle. Now we have a nice, crisp, pointy shape. We'll do the same thing over here. Let's start here, then tap here, and then over here, and then loop around and close that selection. And then one more over here. Tap here, then a little bit higher here, all the way down, and then loop around and close the selection. And then tap the S shape ribbon to get out of there. Now I'd like to make a weird hilly shape behind the yellow hill, but in front of these purple mountains. So we need a layer in between these layers. So just make sure you have layer 4 selected here and then tap the plus for a new layer. Then for the color, we will grab this second color in the first row. And we are going to make a wavy shape. Start here. And we'll wave our way to the right, then go down, loop around to make sure you close that shape. Because if you still have a hole and you try to fill the shape, the paint will spill out and fill your entire canvas. So something like this is perfect. Let's drag in the color and let's move on. We are going to make more layers on top of all the others. We are going to create some shapes in the front. So first tap layer 2 and then tap the plus for a new layer. And then for our color, we are going to use this one over here, which is the 8 color in the first row. And let's make a bumpy shape over here. Make sure that it's connected to the edges and then drag in the color. Then another shape over here. Another rounded shape. Drag in the color. And for this one, I want to remove a little part. And to do that, we are going to use the eraser. To make sure that our eraser has nice crisp edges, we want to use the monoline brush for the eraser as well. You can actually use any type of brush as an eraser or as a painting brush. And to make sure that your eraser will be set to the monoline brush as well, you can just simply tap and hold the eraser to make it switch to the monoline brush. Or you could just navigate to the monoline brush, but this is just a quicker way. Then make sure that the opacity of your brush is at 100%, otherwise it won't erase everything. You will still have a little transparent part. And for the size, let's set it to 20%, just like the brush. And then let's make a rounded shape like this. We will remove this area. You can simply use the eraser to erase this area. And for some more shapes, let's create another layer on top of this one. So we'll tap the plus. And for the color, we are going to use this second color in the first row again. Let's make a bumpy shape over here, a smaller one here, and a little one over here. And then drag in the color to fill these shapes. I want to remove a little part of this one to make it more crisp here at the bottom. So we'll grab the eraser again and let's rotate our canvas. You can just use 2 fingers to rotate your canvas. And let's make a little wavy shape here. And if you pinch really fast, you can have your canvas fill the entire screen. I don't want it to fill the entire screen though. I want to see the edges, so I'll pinch a little bit. Now we are going to create a little waterfall shape right here. And it needs to be behind this water layer, but in front of the yellow hill layer. So let's go to the yellow hill layer, tap that, and then tap the plus for a new layer. And we'll grab that blue again. That's the 7th color in the first row. And we will make a bumpy shape like this. Make sure you loop around and close the shape, otherwise if you fill it, the paint will spill. And now we will make a layer on top of this one, so it'll be in between this blue layer and the water in front. Let's tap the plus. And then for the color, we will grab this one, last color in the first row. And then over here, we'll make like a little cloud shape. Loop around to close the shape and then drag in the color to fill it. Now we almost have all our elements. I also want to add some snow on our mountains and some trees on our hills. Let's start with the snow. Let's go all the way back to layer 1, our big mountain shape. And now to add some snow at the top, we are going to make a new layer by tapping the plus. And for the color, we are going to use this one over here. That's the 9th color in the first row. And now to make that snow, it will be really not handy to have to draw along the edge and to make it really tidy. That would be a hassle. No, we're not going to do that. Let's tap undo. what we are going to do is set this new layer to clipping mask. If you tap the layer and then tap clipping mask, you can see that you have this little arrow and now it's attached to this layer with the bump. And that means that whatever we draw on this layer that is attached to the bump, whatever we paint there, it'll only show up inside of this shape. So we can draw over here, but you won't be able to see it. You will only be able to see any lines inside of that shape. So that makes our life a lot easier. Let's tap undo and let's start making that snow. I'm going to make a drippy shape like this, as if it's ice cream or something like that. Then loop around. You still need to close the shape. And when you go to the layer menu, you can see the shape over here. So make sure that's closed and then drag in the color to fill it. Now let's do something similar for our pointy mountains. Let's go to layer 4. We'll tap the plus for a new layer on top. And we will set that to clipping mask as well. So we'll tap the layer and turn on clipping mask. Now I want the snow to be pointy just like the mountains. So let's use our selection tool trick again. We'll tap the S shape ribbon, set it to freehand and make sure color fill is turned on. And then let's zoom in a little bit and just tap like this to make a random zigzaggy pattern. Make sure you loop around and close the selection. We'll do that for each of these mountains. Loop around, close it, and now for the final one. Loop around and close the selection. And then simply tap the S shape ribbon to get out of that menu. Now for our trees, let's find a nice place to put them. I want them to be in front of the purple mountains and in front of our pink hill shape. So let's tap the pink hill shape and then tap the plus. Then for our color, we are going to grab this one over here, second color in the second row. And I want to make some pointy shaped pine trees right in this area. Let's grab the selection tool again, the S shape ribbon. It's still set to freehand with color fill turned on. And let's make some triangular shapes. Two right here, perhaps one over here. And then tap the S shape ribbon again. Now you can see the undersides aren't exactly horizontal and I want them to be tidy. I want them to be horizontal. So let's go back to the selection tool and let's turn off color fill. And let's pick rectangle this time. And you can make a rectangular selection right here at the bottom from side to side. Do that for each shape. This one as well. And then when we go to the layer, so go to the layer menu, tap that layer, and then use clear. Now the undersides are nice and horizontal. Now let's go grab the brush again, the monoline brush, and let's make another little tree right here on top of this hill. For the color, we'll grab this lighter color, first color in the second row, and we are going to make a wobbly shape like this. And drag in the color to fill it. And there we have our trees. They just need trunks. So let's make a new layer on top of this one by tapping the plus. Then for the color, we are going to grab this one over here, the third color in the second row. And then let's make tree trunks over here. Let's draw a line, hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick line, and then tap one finger on the screen to make sure that it's perfectly vertical this time. Over here as well. Tap one finger on the screen. Finally this one. Tap one finger. Now I don't want the trunks to cover the green area of the tree, so we can use the same selection trick. Let's go to the layer menu, then tap layer 12, which has the tree shapes. Tap it and use select. This automatically selects all the pixels on the layer. And then we can go back to layer 13, which has the trunks, tap it, and use clear. Now all we need is a trunk and some branches for this tree. This time we are going to use a different brush. We are going to use the script brush, which is also part of the calligraphy set. Now with this brush, the size of the brush is set to pen pressure. That means that the harder you press with your pen, if you are using a pen with pressure sensitivity like the Apple Pencil, the harder you press, the thicker the brush stroke will become. So let me just show. If I press hard, it'll be thick, and if I press lightly, it'll be thin, which can be super handy. Let me undo. Now the opacity of this brush is set to 100% and the size is set to 8%. Now let's make a line from the bottom to almost the top, and let's press harder at the bottom and lighter at the top. So like this, and then some side branches like this. And finally, what we need are some clouds, some simple stylized clouds. Let's make them on a new layer on top of all the others. So first tap layer 7 and then tap the plus. And for our brush, let's go back to the monoline brush. And for our color, we are going to use this one over here, the third color in the first row. And let's start over here and make a wavy line with a variety of waves, then loop back and close the shape, drag in the color, and then let's make another one over here. Big bump, smaller bumps, loop back, close the shape and drag in the color, and another one here at the top, loop around, close it, and drag in the color. I want the bottom parts to be nice, horizontal and crisp, just like with the trees. So let's use the selection tool again, the S shape ribbon, have it set to rectangle, and then make a selection of the bottom part. Over here, make sure that you don't go over the top of this cloud over here. Then this one. And then you can either swipe with 3 fingers to clear the selection, or you can go to the layer, tap it, and use clear over here. Now let's say that your clouds are too big or too small, or you haven't put them in the right place. Another option that you will want to know in Procreate is the Move and Transform tool. That's the little arrow over here. If you press that, you will get this little menu at the bottom. You can set it to freeform, which means that you can change the ratio of your shape, which I don't want to do, so I'll tap undo. You can set it to uniform. If you change it, then it'll still have the same ratio, super handy. If you use distort, you can change the entire shape and distort it. And same goes for warp. You can push and pull and warp your shape. And if you want to undo this, you can also press reset here, by the way. Now, I don't want to resize this or change the shape, but this is really a handy menu to explore. And to get out of here, I'll just tap the arrow again. And now we are going to continue our drawing journey by adding more interest to our illustration. Let's start with our background. I want to add a little gradient there. Let's go to the layer menu and tap the plus for a new layer. And it'll be for our background, so we don't want it to be on top of all the others, because then the paint here would cover what we have created here. So we need to drag it all the way down. You can just tap and hold and then drag it all the way down. And then on this layer we are going to create a gradient. Let's go to the brush menu and then go to the airbrushing brushes and use the soft brush. And for the color, we are going to grab the second color in the first row. Let's set the opacity of this brush to 100%. And let's set the size to 6%. Now we are going to cover top part here to about here. We're just going to make a stroke like this. And to turn this into a gradient, we are going to blur it. We need to go to the magic wand here and then pick Gaussian blur. Now to turn up the blur, you can slide on your screen with either your finger or your pen. You can slide from left to right to turn up the blur. Now let's go for something like 80%. And then to get out of there, you can just tap the magic wand again. And I feel like it's a little bit too dark, so we are going to lower the opacity of our layer. And to do that, you need to go to the layer menu and then tap this little N right next to the layer name. Tap it and then use the slider. Let's set it to 50%. That way you have a very subtle gradient. Next, let's add some fun patterns to our shapes. Let's start in the front. Let's go to layer 6 over here. We are going to add patterns to these shapes. And to make life easier, we are going to do something similar like we did with the clipping mask. But this time we'll tap the layer and turn on alpha lock. Now you can see this little checkerboard pattern appear on your layer miniature here. And that means that those layers are locked. You can't paint there anymore. You can only paint on what's already there on the layer. So that's the two little green hills. Now for our brush, we are going to the brush menu and then to the textures brushes. And over here you will find the diagonal brush. That's the one we are going to use. And for the color, we are going to use this one over here, second color, and the second row. The opacity of this brush is at 100%. And let's set the size to 55%. And then with one stroke, go over this hill to add a little pattern here. Let's also add a little pattern on this hill, but for this one, let's just use the monoline brush and create a pattern ourselves. We'll go to the calligraphy brushes, grab the monoline brush, and for the color, we'll grab this fourth color in the second row. Let's rotate our canvas a bit because we are going to make curved lines and it's easier like this. Let's also make our brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 7%. And now let's make these curved lines. All the way down like this. And let's also add a little pattern on this hill over here. So let's go to that layer, that's layer 7. Tap it to turn on alpha lock or slide with 2 fingers to the right to turn it on as well. And now let me grab a brush from my treasure chest brush pack. It's a special free brush pack which you can get by going to freefromflow.com. You will find more than 70 free brushes in there. So just go there, follow the instructions, and then you'll have this crazy brush pack. And we'll use the science brush in this case. It's a nice pattern brush. And for the color, we are going to use this 5th color in the second row. The opacity of this brush is set to 100% and the size is set to 15%. And then let's go over this hill with one stroke. Fill that area. This brush is part of a bigger pattern brush pack, by the way, so if you want to have more fun with patterns, I would suggest checking that out. Now let's move on to this little hill. Let's go to that layer, layer 5. Let's turn on alpha lock there as well. And now let's go back to the monoline brush. You can actually go up all the way to the top of your brush library and go to recent. And there you will find your recent brushes that you have used. And let's grab the monoline brush. And then for the color, let's continue using this 5th color in the second row. And then let's make a wavy, crazy pattern here. Really random, wavy shapes. Really don't have to give this a lot of thought. Perhaps a little oval here. Wavy shape like this. So you get something that looks like this. Now that we have all our shapes, all our patterns, it's time to add texture to our shapes. And this will really give your illustration that extra touch. And to add that texture and to make sure that we don't go outside of the shapes, we will be using alpha lock a lot. And let's just move from the front to the back. So we'll start with layer 7. We will work on the clouds later. And then for our brush, we will go back to the treasure chest brush pack and use the spackler brush. And for our color, let's grab, well, we already have it, the 5th color in the 2nd row. It's perfect. And the opacity of this brush is set to 65% and the size is at 45%. And we are going to add this darker color to the lower left area of these shapes. Just making these rounded motions over here as well, rounded motions along that lower left edge. Over here as well. Until it looks a little bit darker than the rest. And then for some highlight, we will grab this color over here, 3rd color in the 1st row. And we will add that to the upper right. You see that my pen is not touching the shape actually, it's a little bit outside, but still the paint is showing up on that edge. Just along the edge, a little bit of a highlight here as well. Still making rounded motions. And then let's move on to the back. We'll go to layer 6. Alpha lock is already turned on. And then for the color, let's grab this one. The 7th color in the 2nd row. And again, we'll go over the lower left area by making rounded motions. Until you get a nice little gradient here as well. Rounded motions. And then we can switch to the lighter color. We'll use the 3rd color in the 1st row again. And we'll go along the edge. Over here as well at the top. And now let's move on to the water. Layer 2, here alpha lock is not turned on yet, so tap the layer and then tap alpha lock. And then for the color, we'll grab this one over here, 6th color in the 2nd row. And let's go over this bottom area with horizontal strokes. Just the bottom area to make that slightly darker. Then we'll switch back to that lighter color. You can either go to the color menu or you can just tap and hold the circle here to make it switch to the previous color. That can save you some time sometimes. And let's add that to the top here. Then let's move on to this layer over here. That's layer 8. Tap it, turn on alpha lock, and then let's switch back to that darker blue. So tap and hold the color here. Add that to the bottom area here. And tap and hold to switch to that white again. And add that to the top here. And we'll move on to the next layer, which is the yellow hill. Tap the layer, turn on alpha lock. And this time for the darker color, let's grab this one over here, 5th color in the 2nd row. Again, let's go over the lower areas. Rounded motions. Let's add some nice extra interest to this shape. Then let's switch to the lighter color again, 3rd color in the 1st row. And we'll go over the tops here. And over here. Then continue and move to layer 12, which is the green of the trees. Now, those trunks, they are so small, texture wouldn't really be noticeable. So let's go for the green. Let's turn on alpha lock. And for the color, we'll grab this 7th color in the 2nd row. And let's just go over the trees just a little bit. It's very subtle. This one as well. A little bit of texture in the lower left area, and then switch to the light color again, 3rd color, 1st row. And then we'll go over the top area. just a little bit. Then we'll move on towards the back to layer 5. You can see that as we move down, we are working towards the back of our landscape. Now here, let's grab that 5th color in the 2nd row again. And let's make this lower area a little bit darker by making these rounded motions. Then we'll move to the lighter color again, 3rd color, 1st row. And we'll go along the top parts here. You are almost there. Let's move on to the purple mountains. First, let's turn on alpha lock on both of these layers. Let me just start with the purple layer. So that's layer 4 over here. And for the color, we are just going to use this light color. I'm not going to use a shadow color here because it's already pretty dark. Let's just add a tiny bit of light to the side on each of these mountains. Then we'll move on to the snow layer, layer 11 over here. And again, let's stick with this light color. And it's very subtle. I'm not even sure if you can see it on camera. We're just adding a little bit of light to the right side. Now let's move on to our blue mountain. These are the final layers that need that texture. So tap the layer, tap alpha lock. Let's also do it for the snow layer. Tap alpha lock. Then let's start with the blue layer. And for the color, let's grab this 8 color in the 2nd row. It's a nice dark blue. And we are going to use it in the bottom area of our mountain, making big rounded motions. And then we'll grab the light color, the 3rd color in the 1st row. And let's very gently and very subtle add some of that light here on the right side. And finally, for the snow, let's go to layer 10. Do make sure that alpha lock is turned on. And now let's add some light first here in the upper right. And then for some shadow part, some darker part, let's grab this color. The 6th color in the 2nd row. And let's add that to the lower left area. Just with these rounded motions like this. Then finally, let's work on the clouds and learn about layer masks in the meantime. Let's go all the way to the top in our layer menu to layer 14. Tap that layer and tap mask. Now this layer has a mask. It hasn't turned it into a superhero, but still layer masks are really powerful. You can see that we have this white layer mask attached to our cloud layer. Right now it's white, so it means that we can see everything that's on that layer 14. But as soon as you start painting on this layer mask with black, you will start blocking or masking parts of this layer 14. So it's a bit like erasing, but without really erasing, because as soon as you start painting on it with white again, stuff will start to show up again. So it's a non-destructive way of erasing. So right now you can see that we have black over here. If black is not selected yet, then you can simply double tap here at the bottom to select pure black. And then for our brush, we are going to keep using that spackle brush. And with this black color, with the spackle brush, we are going to mask a part of the bottom of the cloud. Just by making these horizontal strokes, you can see that it starts to become more transparent, giving this really nice effect. Let's do it for this cloud as well. Just like this. And then for this cloud, if we go over that area, we might end up painting over this area as well. And we don't want that. We want that faded look here. And to make sure that doesn't happen, we are going to make a selection of this cloud. Because whenever you have a selection, you can only paint or do stuff inside of that selection. So that can be really useful. Let's go to the S shape ribbon. Make sure to set it to freehand and make sure that color fill isn't turned on. And then we'll just loop around this little cloud. Close the selection by tapping the circle and then grab your brush. And now we can go over here without going over that lower cloud. And then once you're done, you can just tap the S shape ribbon again to get out of the selection menu. And there you have it. Now, if you want to see your illustration in all its glory, you can pinch like this and tap 4 fingers on the screen to get rid of the menu. Now, if you want to export your work, to be able to share it, send it, print it out, whatever you would like to do, you first need to tap with 4 fingers again and then go to the wrench over here, then to share. And here you can share your image as whatever you like. I usually share it as a JPEG when I want to share it on social media. If you're sharing it on Instagram, by the way, be sure to tag me in the image, not just in the description, because that way I will be able to find your work and then maybe we'll see your result in the next video. Now, of course, in this video, I wasn't able to show all of the features in Procreate because there are just so many. They should be enough to get you started though. If you want to learn more about all the other features in Procreate, then I would suggest checking out my other tutorials here at YouTube because there's something new to learn each time. Perhaps you would like to follow this one, for example. Now, I'm super curious to know if this was your first drawing in Procreate. Do let me know in the comments. But also, if you are already a long time watcher and this was perhaps your 100th tutorial that you have followed, do let me know. I would like to thank you for watching. Thank you for spending some time with me creating this awesome artwork. You should really be proud of yourself. And I'm looking forward to seeing you for the next tutorial.